Exciting news, Alamo Music is now a Bad Cat amp dealer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the flagship of their lineup, the Black Cat, and tell you why you want this particular cat to cross your path. Stick around. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name is Chris McKee.
And I'm Cooper Greenberg.
We're here with Alamo Music Center in San Antonio, Texas. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, like our videos. If you want to support us, visit our spring store link below for custom swag and check out our podcast, the Fretboard Confessional, wherever you get your podcasts. So, Bad Cat amps, just kind of an awesome boutique amp manufacturer is now in the house. We're going to be taking a look at the Black Cat. This is the cat that's going to bring you all sorts of good luck.
Oh, it's all kind of cat stuff today. Yeah, this has kind of been in the works for a little bit. We've been working with John over at Bad Cat. He reached out to us, and I think it's a really good fit. You know, we have a lot of big name amps. I mean, we have a pretty meat and potatoes lineup when it comes to amps. Fender, Orange, some Vox stuff.
Yeah.
You know, Boss amp. Like we have some cool stuff, but it's nice to have something that's like handmade USA. You know, like just a kind of something to set us apart.
Something that's a little special to go with our guitars that are a little special.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of people at this point might be looking for an amp that's off the beaten path a little bit. So Bad Cat, 4 amps in the lineup, and we are going to be going through each one kind of in the coming weeks as they roll in, because they're all a little different, but got to start with the Black Cat, because I think this is the one that, especially now since they've kind of retooled the line, this is the one a lot of people identify.
Well, and that's an important part of the discussion is Bad Cat's gone through, I mean, they've been a boutique manufacturer of amps that really have, you know, been growing in name recognition. A lot of people have really liked them, but they've gone through and redone their entire lineup fairly recently.
Yeah.
And with that has kind of been birthed in an amp that is still very boutique, is still very much in line with what you know, Bad Cat has done, but has brought a lot more flexibility to what they're doing, and in a tone that I'm going to start off. We can talk about comparisons and like the British-esqueness of some of the sounds, but it is also very much their own thing.
Yeah, which I think is cool. I think when I first was talking to John about the line and everything, whenever you talk about boutique amps, it's so easy to be like, oh, this is like their Marshall kind of one, this is their Fender one. And he was very clear with me about these are all Bad Cat amps. None are really like, this is our AC30 and this is our Deluxe. They're their own thing. And they definitely have a sound of their own, but it's very thick, very like just clear and true. It's what you want out of a tube amp. So yeah, I like the Black Cat a lot. There's also the Hot Cat, the Lynx, and the Cub, which I said we'll be getting into. But I think this is kind of the one, first off, that 2 separate people at Alamo Music have already said that they want to buy.
Yeah.
And very versatile, definitely can handle anything that you throw at it. And it's a great platform for pedals, but also just kind of the sound straight in, which we'll be demoing today, is very cool. So, control-wise, you got 2 channels. You got a clean and your overdrive.
Yeah.
You got a channel volume and a master volume for both. So it's nice. You can take that clean channel, but kind of push it a little bit. And then you got your overdrive channel. You've got treble and bass, a tone cut, and then you've got tremolo and reverb in here as well. With the foot switch, so you can go back and forth between the channels, and you can kick on the tremolo whenever you want. So it is cool. It's very simple to use. 2 EL84s in this.
EL84s in it. The rectifier is solid state. You know, there's a really straightforward aspect to this amp that, depending upon your taste in amps, you either won't like or you will love. You know, Greg Koch, you know, the Gristle King, he famously once said that his dream amp would have one knob that just says more, right? And so for a lot of people, simplicity is key. And what's nice about this is that simplicity is right up front. So it's 2 channels. You've got your 2, you know, volume controls like you talked about, plus a master. You don't have a different EQ set of controls per channel. Now, for some people, you're not going to like that. You're going to want a lot of complexity. You're going to want to like dial that in between the 2. Other people are going to be like, it's perfect. That's perfect, because you want that same setting, regardless of whether you're on clean or you're on dirty. And speaking of clean, this has a ton of headroom for being a 20 watt EL84 1x12 amp.
Yeah.
Like you can go on that clean channel and max it out.
Yeah.
And it's still just got tons of headroom, which is really, really great. And then what I love about this and how I typically play amps is on that dirty channel, you can just turn down and it cleans up very, very nicely.
Yeah, so it's super cool. You do have a lot of options when it comes to the speaker out. There's an effects loop. And yeah, it sounds great. What we did for the demo is, if you've watched the channel quite a bit, you know that we always use either a Blues Jr. or Hot Rod Deluxe. We always use the Fender amp because that's around and it's easy and it's probably what a lot of people out there use. We played this with Custom Shop today, Custom Shop Telecaster with P90s, and it's a nice way of kind of getting just a straightforward tone, that works great with the clean, works great with the overdrive. You will hear what our normal demo would sound like if you're used to the sound that we get in our electric demos. So I did the same thing on that Fender tube amp and then on here, so you can kind of hear the difference, one, compared to your normal Fender Blues Jr, which a lot of people have. Similar kind of control setup, a little bit in there, a little bit of reverb. On both, the EQs are straight up down the middle, a little bit of reverb, and kind of right on the edge of breakup for the clean. And then obviously this one's got the overdrive, so that will be a completely separate thing. But yeah, let's take a listen. Black Cat, kind of, versus a Blues Jr, but really highlighting the tone of the Bad Cat. It is a big difference in my ears. I hope you hear the same.
All right, so there you have it. So, right off the bat, I want to hear your impressions comparing it to a Fender amp, which I think this amp really sits in a different category.
Yeah.
So, what do your ears hear differently?
I mean, I use a Fender amp when I'm gigging. I use the Hot Rod Deluxe.
You used to use a Fender amp. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, with my Fender, I like it because it's easy to use. However, it's almost impossible to naturally get some push out of it. You got to kick on the overdrive channel, especially like the venues that I typically play are not huge. I'm maybe getting to 3 tops on the volume knob. So this is nice. I also have a AC-15, and with the master control, it's a little nicer, but it's also such a distinct sound that's very chimey and voxy, and that's not really my thing. I love that amp, but I just prefer the Fender. So the Fender Clean with all the headroom and everything, it's what I'm really used to. With this, it definitely had such a girth to it, like right out the gate.
Yeah.
And we took a little time to kind of make sure that output volume was as close as possible between these two, and the edge of breakup was as close as possible. This just felt like it had a really thick, like, kind of push to it, which I really liked. And then the overdrive, it was not that crazy. Master was down here. I mean, it wasn't as heavy duty as it can get, and it still like had a lot of really nice, like the pinch harmonics were coming. You didn't have to work too hard for them. So I really dig it. It is kind of hard to draw comparisons to other amps. I mean, there's a little bit of Marshall in there, a little bit of Fender in there, a little bit of Vox with the chiminess.
Yeah.
So it's this nice kind of amalgamation of all these classic sounds that you want. But
not any particular
not
one.
any particular. It's definitely its own thing.
Yeah.
And I find that with some of the more boutique amps that I really like Two Rock and Top
Where it's
Hat.
like
and,
inspired by, but definitely
but
not
it's got its own
emulating or
personality.
copying.
Yeah. I am mostly excited now to go from this, play on the Hot Cat a little bit, play on the Lynx and the Cub, because I know that they all have tones very different
Their own
from each other.
personalities. Yeah.
But I also love the look. I mean, it's a classic look. This is I think the only one that has
The gold
kind of the
cloth?
gold
Yeah.
cloth, which gives it more of an old school kind of vibe, but I like it. No more eyes.
No more eyes.
No more eyes.
I'm torn about that. I still like that it's lit up, so that's cool.
It's classier like this, for sure.
It's true. It did
Yeah.
kind of like, it was almost a little 90s-esque,
Yeah.
with the cat eyes glowing on the stage. But,
It's whatever. The other thing that is cool, this is the combo. It does come in a head cab format,
Right.
as do all the other ones as
Yeah.
well. And so for me, I'm definitely a combo guy because that's what I've always done.
you and 87% of the guitar
Yeah.
buying population. Yeah.
However, I do know more and more recently we've had people coming in looking for heads, and I think a lot of, I mean, you look at Rhett Scholl's, rack of heads. It'd be cool to have just the head in the studio and.
Well, I think a lot of people are starting to realize the benefit and flexibility of a head unit. So I play out of a 1x12 combo too. And there's so many times where I'd love to, and you can do this, right? I could plug it into another, speaker cabinet. But having that flexibility where you're like, here are my controls, the speaker cabinet's over there, we've isolated it, the hot part of the amp is here. I've got, that's a really beneficial setup.
Yeah.
And doing what Rhett does, where you could just have a rack of things and you can switch between them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's extremely flexible and still going through actual amps.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool, versus going, the complete digital route to try to get that flexibility.
Yeah.
One's way more expensive than the other.
That's true.
That's for sure. But that brings up an interesting point, though. So, what did you think of the reverb in this compared to the reverb in the Fender? Because the Fender got a spring tank in it,
Yeah.
whereas this is a very high-end digital reverb.
It sounds very different to
Yeah.
me. This definitely felt more kind of lush. Like it's not that classic Fender spring,
Right.
which you look at one of the best digital reverbs we've talked about in recent time, which is on the Tone Masters. It's
Which
been
is also a spring.
Yeah, it's been proven that you can get a really nice digital reverb in an amp that is either solid state or tube. This is a whole different feel,
Yeah.
and I think that different kinds of players who aren't always going for that spring kind of slappy, wet sound,
Yeah.
they'll gravitate towards this. It's almost like there's a really nice UA plugin that I've used on a lot of stuff. It's like an AKG reverb. It gave me more of that vibe. And yes, you can dial that in to be its own thing. This, it felt very prominent, and it's right there right now. So it'd be fun to kind of max it out and see how
big
Joel
it gets.
Osteen you can get with this thing. But the other thing is, most people that I think are buying an amp of this caliber, they've probably got their dedicated reverb on the pedal board.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Part of the design of this, like leaning into modernity, is that, it is a digital reverb. Digiverbs come a really, really long way. It's not like, of the past, and evidence by that is studio-grade reverbs that people have been using on albums for a long time are now available in pedals.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's what I use. I don't use the spring reverb on my amp.
Yeah.
I use pedals. Even if I want a spring reverb, because of the flexibility of switching on the fly depending upon the song. And I think that the way that they've gone with this, you have this like nod to tradition. It's still a EL84 tube amp. It's still set up as such. But between the digital reverb and the fully buffered, effects loop, you have all of the flexibility that a modern guitar player would have. And so you have it on the amp if you want it.
Yeah.
But I think there is a nod to what you're saying. There's a very high likelihood that you're using something on your pedal board.
You've already got your Big Sky.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I mean, with the headroom that you're talking about and just the huge tone that you get out of something that's only 20 watts, 112, it's kind of the perfect platform for a great pedal board because, it'll be nice.
Yeah.
So I like it. I think it's very cool. I think it comes at a time that we have long needed a new option in the store for a nice amplifier. I mean, I think a lot of people are going down this route of their all digital setup and your IRs and all that. And then there's a lot of other people that are rejecting that, and they want to have a great amplifier that's going to push the air and be
Very different feel.
Yeah.
I've lived in both worlds for extended periods of time.
Yeah.
And I currently have an amp because it's a very different feel. And not only that, as good as IR stuff, people are, it's the old guy thing, but I don't know, there's a feel difference.
There's a feel.
And like because what I do a lot is I'll turn down, and I have yet to find a really perfect reproduction of that response. Now, that also goes to say there's a huge cost difference, like we talked about with Rhett's setup, right?
Yeah.
So combo, what's the cost on this right now?
I think it's $20.99.
Okay.
I could be totally wrong. The website that we have called Alamo Music has all the pricing for the heads and cabs and combos, but it's somewhere around the $2,000 mark.
So a realization I had years ago, I sold a bunch of gear to buy a very expensive amp.
Yeah.
And I have not regretted it, even though I'm
Farewell to the Klon.
Yes. Yeah, I sold a lot of pedals that I didn't need anymore once I got the amp, but I sold a lot of guitars too. And part of it was this realization that outside of me being a limitation in my stuff, which is very warranted, but you can have really, really nice guitars and then kind of have this amp that's the weak link in your setup, which is why I jokingly say you used to play on this Fender Hot Rod. Not anything against those, right? But there's a reason even Fender sells higher end amps. There are different things that you get out of the amp, which I think is its own instrument. And so if you are one of those people that's got like a really nice electric guitar that's high end and you're playing through like a Blues Jr, you realize the benefit when you take the plunge.
For sure.
In investing in a really good amp.
The other thing that I think about when you go down the IR route is you're putting a lot of faith in whatever venue you're going to
represent it very well.
Representing it right. And
that's a good point.
Yeah. I mean,
you're at the mercy of the PA.
You're totally at the mercy of the PA. And if that place has monitors, good for you. I've played a lot of places that do not.
Yeah.
And so the one thing you can control when you have an amplifier on stage right next to you is being able to hear yourself. Because sometimes I played several places in the last couple weeks, and the setup was very different.
You don't want to name drop any of them?
I won't name drop them. But sometimes you play a wedding that's outside, and you can't hear a thing, and it's hot, and it's the middle of summer in Texas, and you're done. And the PA that's there does not accommodate your iridium. So at least you can have an amp to comfort you.
This is very comforting. So if you want more information about the Black Cat, or you want information about the rest of the Bad Cat line, you want to go to our website, which Cooper already mentioned is...
It's alamomusic.com. And as of right now, filming this video, we just got these amps in. We have every single amp in its combo and head cab form. Who knows how long that they will last. We will have them reordered.
Hopefully not very.
But they are, they're made in California. I don't think that they are experiencing the wait times that some of these twin reverbs and deluxe reverbs are having.
Yeah.
But it's always worth it if we don't have it to reach out and see when those are going to come in, because we will have these stocks.
So if you want a high quality, made in the USA boutique amp that is really going to be something its own and will treat you with aplomb in your signal chain, you definitely need to take a look at the Black Cat. So head over to our website and just add to cart or give us a call and we'll compare them for you. And if you're new to our channel, this is what we do. We review guitars and all the gear associated with them, and we give you our very strong opinions on it. If you like that, go ahead and subscribe, like the video, and comment below. If you have an old Bad Cat or you've tried the new ones, I'd love to hear your opinion on there, as well as the rest of the world of boutique amps. What are you running through, and what are you embracing now? Is it digital? Is it tube? What does your future hold? So thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.